follow me back here, and before I start, a brief stating, when I refer to who, I'm referring to the World Health Organization. Okay? With that said, without much further ado, here's the video in full. Hey YouTube, fun to be back here, and I'll be once again. The YouTuber Stephen Bachman, linked down below, has written a paper about the proposed links between mental illness and religious belief. I'm going to go through this work using a script based upon notes and points that Stephen raised in his paper. So, with little to do, let's read Steve Bachman's Is Religion Linked to Mental Illness? The introduction is very confused. Well, yes, setting out a question is good in any introduction. It also needs to set out an overview on how you're going to answer it in any meaningful way. What studies are you going to view to? What medical journals or organisations are you going to use? The statistics, if any, that back up your argument. For example, in this case, the World Health Organization, British School of Psychiatry and the American Psychological Association should at least be included in the introduction to give the reader statistics to back up any data used in reference to religious people and the amount of mental health worldwide. Now, the fact is that mental health is easier to notice and treat nowadays. We can detect the symptoms much easier than we could before. So we need to ask, how does religion exacerbate the problem? How does it make the problem better or indeed worse? His point would only work if mental health was more profound in religious people than in non-religious people. However, that is not the case. So we'll get into the argument proper. And it was type 2.0, types of mental disorder that could be associated with religion. 2.1 is psychosis. Part 2 is the argument proper, as he goes into various psychical conditions that could be associated with religion, starting with psychosis. He quotes a paper from 2001 that talks about psychosis, but doesn't address the DSM version of what psychosis is. Now, while the paper is well researched, it should not be without a supporting premise from the DSM, as the DSM is the standard medical guide of the psychological field. While I might find little to disagree with the terms argued in the paper, the DSM has more definitions and terms in its work. In short, quoting this without a confrontism is not giving a medical opinion, but conjecture based upon a sole source, which is not really how you should be formulating an academic argument. Next, he gives a conjecture that psychosis leads to schizophrenia. This is false, as psychosis is a symptom of mental illness and not the cause. He argues that religion enhances psychosis, whereas the proof or the evidence for this. Psychosis happens for the most part as mental cases progress, not connected to the thought ideas one holds about the origins of the world. He then contends that the symptoms of can mislead religion, like what, for example? Please list them and carry them over in a medical fashion. Number 2, point 2, paranoia. Next, using this whole paragraph on paranoia, and somehow this proves that paranoia has a connection to religion. It does not, as paranoia in this case is talking about paranoid episodes are suffered in certain mental health cases and not in the populace. So how does this stretch to fit into having most of the world's population have paranoia in the way described in the quote? 2.3, anxiety. Another part with only one out of context quote is about the signs of the quote is about high anxiety. Anxiety is a part of normative behaviour. This is about high and how it can be when it is part of non-normative thought. So he has to answer how this is that a believer suffers like a non-believer does not. Is there medical support for this claim, and if not, how does it fit the definition which he wishes to get across, and how does that anxiety fits this definition, which is a medical definition of high anxiety or anxiety as a whole. Symptoms of concern. So he goes into describing symptoms he thinks you should concern with, which he basically goes into. So we've got 3.2, emotional changes and disruptions in cognitive processes of attention, perception, or judgment. In moving to citizens of concern, he discusses emotional change, which I fail to see as a symptom of mental illness, as it is part of normal user, unless you're talking about bipolar disorders. Now, he says that he personally doesn't see how religion helps them. Well, Stephen, psychology suggests that religious organisations and other social organisations are a part of this good environment, for they help the person recover and accept and be accepted in a mentally healthy environment with positive reinforcement. Now, without evidence, he suggests that religion empowers paranoia and superstition. Now, that is not a medical claim, so it should not be in this paper. It's a claim of personal bias. Again, rational thought is not defined. It is a personal state of assessment, as rational thought is not quantifiable in medical terms. Then he goes into beliefs and how they differ from facts. Belief is not a fact, I agree. However, everyone has a belief about something, whether it is one's own self or one's social status. Now, they may reflect truth, but not always. Again, how does religion alter one's mental state? Do you have evidence to back this up? As none is presented, I would argue not. Then he goes into delusional beliefs. Again, he begins his part of delusion with a quote which is out of context. It is about delusional beliefs in mental health, not as used by people like Richard Dawkins online. Hearing God is not a sense of gratitude, it is part of normative human behaviour. Delusion is not something that can be controlled, it is a symptom of a medical condition, and therefore affects one's understanding, not the normal world. Then he goes into how people may view their own perception of their self. However, I don't see this as a negative or positive, just how people's perceptions can grow and expand. He does not describe two like rational or objective. Please define these terms in terms of medical facts. Then he goes into the situation of speaking in tongues. Now, this is part of wish fulfillment or peer pressure. How does this equate to delusional behaviour is belong me? Again, how does this prove his case? It does not. You can dislike such practices. I dislike such practices. But labeling a medical problem does not make it so. You need to back it up with medical data and fact. Hallucinations. He begins to talk about hallucination, not defining what a hallucination is or what the different types are, audio, visual, nasal. Hallucinations are different and are brought on by different stimuli. So I am going to assume he means audio, visual, hallucinations, and people don't hear voice that actually exists. They can actually hear a voice that is brought on by stimuli to a person they haven't met. However, the voice will be a memory or a personal tribute to in the subconscious. So basically, if your dad told you something, you smelled sausages, and you could add that particular smell to your dad tell you something. Now, it may not sound like it'll sound like your memory's version of your dad or of your neighbour, of whatever, or your teacher. Certain smells, certain sights, certain things could bring on these hallucinations, unless you're talking about, like, for example, things that are part of mental illness, which is something altogether. But I assume when you talk about hallucinations, you talk about hallucinations that people deal with all the time, as you're talking about religion. He talks about ancient people and their knowledge base. Now, this is something that I get quite exercised about. As the notion that we are so far past these people is a falsehood, as these people built the pyramids, the Great Wall of China, the Hungarian Babylons, and the other 9 wonders of the world. Not only that, but they developed such things as math, philosophy, and other such things we rely on for our own well-being. So, seeing that they were some beneath us is a bit wrong. Possession is something that he readily admits is a minority person, yet points to mental illness. It's more that the power of suggestion than more to show a mental illness. He has but given his conjecture about religion doing harm for hallucinations, which is not true, as hallucinations are a part of delusional mind state, not based upon one's metaphysical opinion. 3.5. Thoughts, reflections on psychosis and religion. He has set a conclusion for the psychosis part that the religion ticks the boxes for psychosis, yet has not given the definition from the DSM or the WHO. He correctly says that being mentally is not correct and should be treated, but however, he has not proven that religion has any correlation to mental illnesses he has mentioned, especially psychosis. 3.6. Paranoia, alienation from others. He talks about alienation from others, about how certain factors lead to paranoia being exaggerated. It was a discussion, well, the quote he gives is a discussion on the paranoia, and so not on the normal person. He then discusses another from the same paper where they discussed if it could have this proves his point. It does not. It's talked about the individual suffering from paranoia, not the symptom overall. He sums up by saying that the idea of eternal which is held by many churches, so therefore is not something that many Christians could believe, which is not a view held by many churches, so he says that many Christians will agree with. This is particularly to being against stem cells and homosexual. No, it comes from the fear of the other or the unknown. Now, homosexual marriage is about equality, not about what God wants or needs. Fetal stem cell research is about a cell count as human life. Is about does a cell count as human life, and that is definitely not a yes or no answer. But it's down to human in question their own sense of ethics and personal opinion. 3.9. Powerless and the threat of victimization or exploitation. We see this as a human trait, not necessarily as a single idea or opinion that causes it, as we see ourselves fiction of things like circumstance. Again, how does this relate to actual mental paranoia and not separate from normal human interaction? Again, you have to explain how it is different from, say, how we all feel victimized in different parts of our lives. There are reflections on paranoia and religion. Can you prove that paranoia is related to religious experiences or practices? Then he goes into 3.11. More and more about doing well. We all have a feeling of failure, as we all wish to excel in our chosen lives, and the fear of failing can sometimes consume these thoughts of many people. If you can't understand that anxiety to others are different from anxiety, then why is it a medical matter at all? Seems very ill thought out in reference to one's metaphysical opinion, making one more anxious. Do you have any data to back up your assertion that being religious makes you more anxious overall? Do you have proof that religion stops you thinking critically about anything? Yeah, how does belief in God stop you making calm judgment? Where you will accept God? In what way? In what way does one's decision make God upset? Again, these are claims that he does not back up with any sort of data. Now, you can believe that people are delusional, irrational, whatever, for not being God. That's fine. That's your opinion. What you can't do is present that as medical fact. There is nothing to back that up as medical fact. That's a personal biased claim that is not backed up by medical fact. Consequences of failing. People have this belief in society that one's own community, as we all have a strong knowledge that whatever action we do, there will be a reaction. This being God, again, people know that sin or not, observing God's standards is that when you sin, you are not observing God's standards, and that repentance is a huge part of that healing action. Again, we all know the consequences of our argument. If this was have any validity, then we should not know the consequences of jail. We do, and that's why most people are law-abiding. Religion is that saying that when we have that standard that God has set, and we try to reserve them. So in no way does it to lead to the things that he's saying. Reflections on anxiety and religion. Anxiety can lead to mental illness. It can be a symptom of it. However, this is a false. Like his false claims about paranoid psychosis, there are many symptoms are not caused by and they do not cause mental illness. Mental illness is usually innate and does not need a cause to become active. It can be simple that causes them not to become active. It is not simply a cause A. It is usually a lot of factors, and religion is not one of them. He goes, and now the summary. In summary, his paper has not proven its case. It does not tackle the causes of what the causes of mental illness are, why religion may be linked to them. In reality, having a religious belief makes you no less or more statistically prone to mental illness. Just more religious people have it more right, because guess what? Most people in the world are religious. The numbers are going to be skewed in that direction. However, countries like Czech Republic and Sweden, which are mostly atheist, have as much statistically as the rest of the world, showing that religion is not a factor, but is a part of human cognitive development and innate genes passing them on. All you have is your assertions. Again, what your metaphysical belief has no relevance to your medical well-being. I hope that was informative, Stephen. Because again, I didn't call you names. I just went through it at an academic level. And again, the thing is that I know that I'm going to get a lot of shit for saying some of the things I did, but you have to understand that when you are talking about medical facts, you have to prove your case, and you haven't. You basically not relied on a a lot of quotes that are out of context and not really proving your case with the DSM or the HERB or anything like that. And those are things that are important. Anyway, if you want to respond, I'll keep this open. Please send me a PM if you wish to. If you do, I'll make sure to link it down below. I'll link it down below. If there's any links, Stephen, that you wish me to give to people, I will do so. To any the work that you posted in your paper, I will do so people can research it for themselves. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed that. This is 5 minutes. See, 4 dreams make a true. Out.